Last week, Fnatic announced their acquisition of a new Japanese team in Rainbow Six, transitioning away from their long-standing Australian core as it plans to expand more into the Asian esports market. But one player from that OG Fnatic still remains with the team. Mag was kind enough to talk with me more about this new acquisition, his role on the new squad, and expectations for the future as he gears up to tackle a new challenge in a completely different language. Big thanks to him for taking the time. Hope you enjoy this, and let me know if there's anybody else that you'd like me to talk to next. Have a good one.
Basically, this sort of starts in 2018 when Fnatic sort of joined Rainbow Six Esports with the vision to, expand into the Asian market while still sort of competing at an international level. And after seeing sort of huge success in Japan from, passionate fans, high viewership, also sort of collaborating with some smaller sort of companies over there, Fnatic sort of knew, and I sort of knew, and we knew that this is a market that we wanted to get into. So just as we were trying to, execute this plan by going to Japan, COVID happened in 2020. So for the last 2 years, we've battled with, weird circumstances, and pretty much all the results that came with it, which were very average results. So once again, we had the opportunity at the end of last year, to go to Japan, but like every year, there was a lot of moving pieces in the background, such as, Ubisoft, tournament organizers, league officials, and basically there was a deadline that we had to have a real commitment to join the Japanese league, be able to stay in Asia to play in APAC league by the end of January. And basically that was for Diz to figure out. So we were also mindful that we didn't want to be playing on, this high ping and being in Australia and still playing APAC North for 2 years. We thought, it wasn't going to be that long. So Diz managed to find a solution where we could enter Japan, we could be in the Japanese league, we could be in APAC North, and that was to have a Japanese team. So we decided to sign a Japanese team. It was the former Guts roster. You have Lily, Yura, Meryu, Light, and our new pickup Chibisu, who is actually a bearing god. I can't wait for him to, show off his bearing skills, as well as signing Phenomene, who is our new strategic coach. And of course, I cannot forget Gumboy, who is our manager / translator for the whole thing.
So that deadline was something that was posed for January of this year, was the idea? So like January 2022?
Correct. Yes,
okay.
End of January this year.
But that was that mostly dependent on you being able to join like the Japanese league, and then like APAC was kind of like the addendum to that? It was mostly, if we can't join Japan, that's like the linchpin of the whole deal. Yeah,
we had to be in Japan, a whole team in Japan by end of January 2020.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So was Guts dropping the team, and then Fnatic kind of saw that as an opportunity to get in there, or was that more of a discussion between Guts and Fnatic, and they dropped the roster because Fnatic's acquisition of the team was kind of already underway?
So while looking into Japanese teams, as obviously Dizzle had to make some different plans, of whether, this international team can get to Japan, what happens if they can't, he needs to make sure that he has a plan, that he has a team in Japan by 2022. And Guts at the time, I believe, were looking to sell their team to another organization. So I guess it was just really good timing. Fnatic, looking for Japanese players, possibly Japanese teams. We had a few options on the board. And Guts, they came third overall in the last APAC season, while we came fifth. So it was pretty much a no-brainer that, these guys are doing really well. They almost made a major. They came third overall. And it really just made sense to go with Guts.
So really fortunate timing is a great way to put it, but it's like they already wanted out. Fnatic was trying to find their own way back into the whole mess, and then everything just kind of, not on a whim or a miracle, but it felt like everything just kind of fell into place more or less.
Yeah, no, it really did.
Okay. Japanese team, as opposed to trying to accomplish like all of those goals that you mentioned, like expanding into the Asian market, trying to do it with an OCE team for 2 years. Like you mentioned, all of the COVID circumstances made it like practically impossible. Was it mostly just, we can't get into Japan. It was like border restrictions. I had been hearing and things and doing research and seeing that it was really difficult to try to make that transition from country to country just because of the restrictions that they had in place on their border. Was that kind of the main reason why that transition wasn't really that possible for the original OCE lineup?
So, yeah, it's all about border restrictions. Basically, Australia also used to have the strictest border restrictions in the world.
True, yeah.
And along with Japan. So it really wasn't working out. If it maybe was America or, England, it may have happened earlier, but Japan having the strictest measures and Australia having the strictest measures, it really just, it didn't look like it was going to happen. Didn't look like it was, ever going to work out because Japan opened for 2 weeks. Omicron happened, and then they shut straight away.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the pressure was on for Diz to really try to get something done by the end of January.
Yeah, that makes sense. But even like reflecting on like the players that you had played with during the COVID era, so we're talking, Lusty, Tex, Stigs, Mentalist, Alfama, all those guys. Do you think kind of after maybe some of your own reflection that you could have gone to Japan and like accomplished all those goals and like won a lot and found a lot of success like with the guys that you were already playing with, like even like assuming that the border restriction problem hadn't really happened in the first place?
Yeah, it's definitely something I always think about, like the what ifs. What if we could have gotten to Japan with these teams? And to be honest, we were building a very, very promising team at the end of last year after stage 3. We were bringing in 2 new players. I'd say they were rookies. One was definitely a rookie, crazy amount of talent.
Yeah.
And just, it's always the what if we could have gone to Japan with this team, because it felt like we had a lot of potential. And the few scrims that we did have with the team, we clicked straight away and we were already good friends and everything felt like it was coming together. But, the world had a different idea. So I guess, like always, in my situation, it's doing the best is what you have. Control what you can control, I think is a big thing. So I just got to put that in the back of my mind for a bit. Well, not for a bit, forever, I guess.
Right, yeah.
And just really do the best with what we are doing now, which is the Japanese lineup. And I can't wait to work more with them.
Gotcha. So it would have been a case where you had it was both Tex and Stigs come out, 2 new players come in, but then accentuating circumstances happen, the Guts roster happens to be available, and then that transition happens, so you never actually need to like sign these other guys or announce a different lineup, essentially.
Yes, that's correct. But yeah, we were so close to signing them.
Gotcha.
So,
no, just to make sure I've got like the timeline right in my head.
Yeah.
Oh,
No,
there
that
could have
is
been this
correct.
other
That is
thing.
correct.
But gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And then just to clarify on like the different coaching changes, obviously Dizzle's still with the team, but there's a new coach coming into the fray. You've got a different the manager for the old Guts core is bilingual, so hopefully like that's helpful just from a managerial standpoint. But Diz is still with the team, but he's integrating more onto the organizational side. What's his status right now?
Diz has definitely stepped away from the coaching role a lot, and he's letting Fnatic do a lot of it because, especially when he does get to Japan, a lot of his work will be, with Fnatic and the business side, not so much the team side.
Yeah.
So, while Diz is still there, he still can oversee things. He's really trusting everything to Fnatic, as he will pretty much just be leading like the Asian expansion in Japan. So, yeah.
Okay. You're putting a lot of trust in somebody like that who, I mean, he worked with Gamma before. I didn't know if he had done anything else. Kind of, what's your take on Fnatic prior to like really getting started to work with him?
Honestly, I didn't have many thoughts on him. I know that there are some players that I talked to, sort of gave an insight into what he does, and I thought that we definitely see the game the same way, and the processes he does with his players, I think, are at a T1 level, despite the fact that obviously with the Gamma T2 team. And yeah, even now after meeting him, after seeing his work, we really, really do see the game on a very similar level. And I just can't wait to work with him more.
Sweet. That's good to hear. I'm sure he'll be nice to hear that too, or he will appreciate having the good word put in for him. So let's talk about you with this lineup specifically. So how are you integrating into all of this? I think the blog post from Fnatic mentioned, or it called you former captain Mag as opposed to like current captain. So I'm curious if there was a leadership change kind of going on behind the scenes, or if it was kind of mandatory because it's a whole new team coming in and you're now a part of that system, or how do you mesh with a whole different team than what you had from just a couple months ago?
Yeah, so the leadership thing, I think I don't want to just go in there, Diz and I, foreigners, and then, hi, I'm your new leader,
Right.
Like, it's like aliens coming down to, Earth and being like, I'm your new leader sort of thing. And I don't want to take that away from Yura, who is their leader, at all. I think it's important to show that I still understand that, Yura's a leader. He's been leading this team for many years now. And I sort of have to put myself in his shoes a bit, So, yeah, I think definitely for now, I'd like to make sure Yura is still, a leader in the team, but also share my experience and my experience over the years with the team to really help them grow. And I guess my integration,
this could be like a role question. Like, is there something you're meant to be filling, or is it like the like everything on Guts is kind of rearranging maybe to fit like Phenamine's vision for the team, or are you kind of coming in and doing something that somebody else on the old Guts roster was already doing? There's a couple different ways you could think about it.
So, pretty much, I'll be missing the first stage of 2022.
Okay, I was going to ask.
In a couple months.
All right.
Yeah, in a couple months, I'll be joining the roster as a main core lineup, and I'll be communicating with my teammates in Japanese. And what the roster will look like, at that time, will be determined at that time.
Okay.
So, for now, I'll just be studying all my Siege Japanese lingo. And definitely, when I do get in the lineup, I think what I can bring that will enable my teammates the most will be all the shot calling stuff, the IGLing stuff.
Okay.
I think if I'm able to keep sort of the team on the same page, make sure we're always working towards the same goal, the team will really, really see a lot of improvement. And I think my experience will really let, our new young gunners and all these other players reach their height and just see the team be able to reach new heights as well.
Okay. That actually was my next question. So, I mean, you've obviously been learning Japanese for several years, but give me like the competitive status update, like your confidence in your own Japanese on like a translation level to work effectively, like in the context of a team, as opposed to like just generally like learning a new language, because you have to apply it to something that most people, when they learn a new language, probably don't have to worry about nearly as explicitly as something like strategy and comms and heat of the moment kind of stuff. So what's the status update for you?
I'd say at this point, I've got all the basics down. Like the map callouts, cover me throwing flashes, how many ADSs there are, what's the enemy pushing. I can definitely solo queue in Japan ranked. I could definitely play in a 10-man. And once the round starts, I'll be able to understand everything in the round.
Yeah, okay.
However, when it's in between rounds, things that are more complex, a bit longer, a bit more specific, that's when I tend to struggle. So it'll be about making sure that, when they are talking about things mid-round, I'm really listening to the key things they're saying. And then obviously also, jotting down what I didn't understand and then making sure I remember it. Because, if we're playing Siege and all they're talking about is Siege, eventually I'll be able to know everything they're talking about.
Yeah, I guess that's
over
fair.
time,
Yeah.
But as I mentioned before as well, I'll obviously have to improve on shot calling things and sort of IGLing things and all the other IGL, type lingo. As that's sort of where I think I can, like I mentioned before, bring a lot to the team. So yeah,
all right.
Still, a lot more to go.
That's the kind of thing that, like, personally on my end, if I was going into a situation like that, it would feel like super daunting, just because I'd done my job like one way for such a long time, and then having to make such a like it seems like a big transition for you. I didn't know if that was like nervous or nerve-wracking for you or anything, or if you really think that it's not that big of a deal at the end of the day.
I mean, Honestly, if I hadn't started learning, a bit of Japanese 2 years ago and just sort of gradually being able to play with these Japanese players, like literally 2 years ago,
Yeah.
slowly, learning words and whatnot and understanding, how to pronounce things, what they use, just listening to it for so long, this wouldn't have been possible at all, I think. For someone who's never even said a word in Japanese, to be able to even try and do what I'm doing now, I think it would be way too difficult. And for sure, I understand a lot more than I can speak. So obviously speaking, I'll have to work on, but
Sure.
really thank goodness that I've been, so passionate about, Japan, the whole project, and really been on, Japan side all these years.
So on that note, you could have probably, I mean, like you mentioned, if you hadn't already been in the process of learning the language, maybe this kind of opportunity, like when Guts came into the picture, might not have been on the cards for you. But what really, aside from wanting to stick with Fnatic, what was the main reason you wanted to stick on with a new team, try something out like this that was vastly different from anything you'd done in Siege before? What was the primary motivator?
I think the primary motivator for me was just also life after my pro career. And I really think that if I were to stay in Australia, let's put this in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
I could have joined IG. Let's say I could have joined IG.
Okay,
join those guys.
Hypothetical, nothing's actually happened. But
yeah, nothing's actually happened, guys.
Okay.
Okay, cool. I can go to majors. I can go to invite. Their team actually looks like the Apex Super Team this year. Really excited to see what they do. If they lose one game, it's all for nothing. They don't have to lose. They shouldn't lose a game, right? Their team looks so good. Anyway, what am I going to do after Siege in Australia? And there's really not much to do at all. Australia is dead region when it comes to esports. I don't think it's growing in the next couple years, next year. So Japan is, right? And that's where I think my future is. It's no secret that I have a large Japanese fan base, learning Japanese, and I think that's just where my future is. And I'm just following my heart. I want to make sure that I am securing something after esports, but at the same time, I know that we can still be very competitive at a global level with the amount of experience I can bring, Diz can bring, Fnatic can bring with this Japanese team. Because still, no Japanese team has made it out of groups in an invitational. And
True.
Previous Fnatic, we've never been first round at invitational. So hopefully the next invitational, we'll be there and we'll get through the group stage.
So you're just trying to carry the legacy of Fnatic getting to invite and then actually being able to make magic happen and get deeper in a bracket than most APAC teams do. That's what it sounds like.
Yes, that is exactly what it is.
I like that. All right. So given all of this then, what's the expectation for what this new lineup looks like? Like in the short term, do you think they'll probably keep the same form as they did back when they were under Guts, like high APAC North placement, continuing to do pretty well in Japan League? And then what's your expectation kind of when you jump on the roster, and with some of the changes that you're going to make when you join, what do you think happens after you finally get on?
I think for the short term, definitely making majors is what we want to be achieving. In stage 3 last year, Guts were one game away from making a major in their last play day against Fnatic, and unfortunately they lost.
Sounds like you're the problem here. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think that just means they weren't ready to play at an international level. So definitely getting to a major would be huge, which then means we can possibly do a London boot camp, and the team then will really get some international experience about actually how to play the game, because no matter how many times I go overseas to play in EU or NA, I'm always like, wow, APAC really don't know how to play the game. So
no, that's
can't
fair,
wait for them. Yeah, I can't wait for them to get some more experience. And I guess the main thing is that these improvements take time. It doesn't happen overnight. I think a good example would be Damwon in their first stage of last year in APAC North. I think they came last or second last.
They were like seventh, I think, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was seventh. They slowly, they worked on everything, they improved, and then they were making every major and they are now the APAC favorite heading into international events. So I think it's about giving our experience to them little by little, and really working on things and making sure they stick, fundamentals and things like that. Because we're not here to just build a team that can win APAC North and then be first rounded at every international major.
You don't want
We're here to
that,
make
yeah.
a team. No, we don't want that. We want to make a team that can be the best in Japan, be the best in APAC, and also contend with the best teams of the world at majors. So it takes time. I want everyone to get that, but we really have some really big goals.
All right. Seems like a pretty good spot to wrap it up on then. I like the message. Anything else that you'd like to kind of throw out into the ether about the whole transition, new team, kind of what it means for you or for Fnatic that we didn't quite cover in the past 20 minutes or so?
Not really. I think it might be I guess it's not really a shock to everyone. I've read a lot of, comments on Reddit, comments on Twitter, that it makes sense. So I really want to also be able to get everyone to, start to understand, like the new Fnatic, my new teammates, and all that. And obviously give them some life with the international community, because Japan is usually pretty closed off to that.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope everyone looks forward to that. And yeah, really show these guys some support, because there's some really funny guys in there and you'll really love them as much as I do.
Sweet. If we get comm videos with subtitles, we'll be able to see all of their
For
personalities
sure.
kind of really shine
It's
through.
going to be good. It's going to be good.
Sweet. All right. Anything else you want to drop on? Just say to the fans, anyone you want to thank, and we'll wrap it up. It seems like the kind of interview question you're supposed to ask, because like everyone says it every broadcast. So.
No, I think my last message was good.
All right. Sounds good. Mag, appreciate you taking the time. We got time zones to work out in our favor after a couple days of talking about it, but thank you for the insight. Really appreciate it, and hope you guys do really good as Japan League and APAC North start approaching.
Thank you.